We are rolling. So you were just talking about fundraiser, your first Zoom experiences. So this is only your
Yeah,
third time
so
on Zoom, which is crazy since this pandemic has kind of started. I would say that's a small number
it's insane. I've been like just kind of hermiting in the cabin this whole time, training, I guess. But yeah, so third ever Zoom meeting. But the first Zoom meeting was really cool. I got invited to talk with Jill Biden
Yeah.
through the USC team. They had a few members talk and kind of ask some points and stuff. And it was crazy. It was like, I mean, I was talking to her. It was for the campaign, and I kind of had they just kind of wanted to ask some questions on whatever we wanted, pretty much. So they kind of gave us free reign to ask whatever we wanted. I had a question about the education system and how they were going to better the education system. And she's a teacher, an ex-teacher. Well, I think she's probably still teaching, but her eyes like lit up. It was so cool. Like she had such a good answer, kind of how they're going to revamp the public school system. And also I had a question about after school activities. Cause I've talked to you about like last September, I had like a major anxiety panic attack thing that I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
Like no idea what anxiety was.
And you were training, right? You were in Zermatt when that happened? You were at like
fall
training camp?
Yeah, I was
those
at.
That don't know, Zermatt's like 11,000 feet. It's not an easy place to get to. I mean, especially to have a panic attack and stuff like that happen. It's 3 trams to get up to where the actual like training site is, and I don't know, it's like an hour upload.
It takes an hour,
helicopter out. So I mean,
yeah. Well, that's what happened. I had to get helivac out because, I mean, like I said, and people who've had anxiety or panic disorder or anything like that can relate. But it came to a point where like I was seizing on it. So what happened? Let me just tell you the whole story. It was really scary, but like I had no clue what anxiety was up to this point. Coming from Montana, it's like you're hard, like you have mental problems or mental disorders, like you should figure it out. And I've talked a lot of my cousins and family and friends from Montana have had it, but they deal with it internally, which is something I feel like I guess I probably did up until that point.
Right? That's the Montana way.
I mean, people know, like people get it. It seems like that's, but anyways, so I get to the bottom of one run, like into the finish area. And I've told you this story, but I'm just going to repeat it for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I started to lose feeling in my hands, and that feeling went to my arms and then my legs. I slowly started to lose feeling in my extremities, like pins and needles. And then I started to feel it in my stomach. And this is where I was like freaking out. I was like, I can't feel my hands and legs. Like I've had that happen before, right? Like broke my back and lost feeling for like 15 minutes and was like, all right, we're good to go.
Yeah, everything's fine.
I thought maybe it's just that, like my compression factor reenacting or something like that. But then when I started to lose feeling in my stomach and my chest, I was like, holy shit, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I went down anyways. I was like to our physical therapist, like, Chuck, like something's going on, something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is, but I need to get out.
While you were in the course, you kind of noticed it, like while you were skiing your run, or it's you get through the finish and then you're like kind of in the finish area, just making it, and then it's like, oh, this is like.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
A funny thing, I had to poop really bad, and up there, like up there in Zermatt, there's no bathrooms. Like you're on the glacier. There's a T-bar, and they have a little porta potty in the bottom. And the day before, I kind of was like freaking out because I had to poop, and I was like, I don't want to go into the porta potty. I went in there, and there was no toilet paper, and I'm like freaking out. So this happened during so the next day I was like, oh God, I gotta poop. And I remember my experience yesterday, like I had to go get some like wet naps from Chuck, and so this turd caused me to have this major panic attack where so I'm laying down and just trying to like figure out what's going on. I'm starting to realize like I can't even ski at this point. Like I can't get out of here. I don't know what's going on. It all just kind of, everything just avalanched on top of me. Like I'm seizing. I can barely breathe. I'm ready. Like I'm about to pass out, but Chuck is doing these sternum rubs to keep me awake.
Okay.
And sorry.
No, you're good.
I turn this on. It says it's on Do Not Disturb too. That's so annoying. And I'm like coming to terms with my life, dude. Like it's a beautiful day out. I'm like, this is an amazing place. This place is unreal. It's so
That's crazy.
Beautiful up there.
Your wheels are turning like that.
Yeah. I was like, this is a beautiful place to die.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And at this point, I have no idea what anxiety is too. Like I've never had a panic attack. I've never had anything like this. So I'm like, all right, this is it.
So, is it really stemming back to like, I had to go take a shit and I'm going to a porta potty? Is that what it's like? Is that what it comes down to? Is that
dude, I think so. I kind of think so. Like I might have some anxiety with like pooping in a porta potty up at a ski area. But no, what happened, I guess, I don't really know. Obviously, we don't really know what caused it. A lot of things now looking back at, the stresses that were in my life and, at that point and certain, where I was at in my life, I guess I was kind of like not really sure if I wanted to keep skiing or what my relationship and everything was just kind of going through my head. And so I ended up getting flighted. The helicopter came and took me to the hospital. They think that what happened was it was elevation or high altitude sickness induced. So like high altitude sickness, you lose, feeling, you start to lose feeling in your extremities and you get that. So that they think that that's what kind of started it. And then I had this panic attack, but the crazy thing was it lasted for, I'm trying to get diagnosed. Cause at this point, like something's wrong with my heart, something's wrong with my brain, something's wrong with my blood. I got blood clots. Something's going on, right? And I feel like we know our bodies as athletes, and this was something I never felt before. And I was just like, wait, I felt everything before, like I know when things hurt and what things are wrong, at least kind of to a point. But this is something in my head, and I had never dealt with this. So the next 2 months, I had some amazing support staff with the US ski team, and I had a donor. It was crazy. So I had a panic attack. I was like, get me home, right? Get me home. I still don't know what it is at this point, but I want to get home and see what's going on. And
so they helicopter you down. So on the day that day, Chuck kind of keeps you conscious, everything else, and then they decide you're like, all right, I'm not gonna be able to ski down. Is that what, or do you kind of snap out of it? Do you ski down, or do you get a helicopter and they bring you to the hospital? Like how'd that go?
I'm like on my deathbed, and I'm laying there, and Chuck's just trying to keep me awake, and he's on the phone. He's like, the helicopter's coming, and he's just trying to keep me awake by the time I get there. They come in, and I'm in the finish area. You've been to Zermatt, but there's every team in the world is there. Like
big training site for
Australia, all these people,
Japan, Finland,
exactly.
Any country you can think of, they're there training.
And I'm laying down right in the middle of everybody. I didn't even make it off of that area. I was just right smack dab in the middle. So they had to stop training. Everybody was on hold. My teammates are freaking out. They're watching me die. Because like I said, I'm seizing, and it was a super gnarly thing that happened for everybody that was down there. Because it was, and all these people are there because the helicopter. And the helicopter landed.
It's one of those things when those injuries kind of come in, right? You always see them at the bottom of the course, and it's just eerily silent. Right? Everyone's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, when someone gets hurt, and then our sport is just so amazing, like we have such an amazing support community. It's just really cool. Like we're a big family, international family, and like my teammates are freaking out, but also my friends and other teams are freaking out. which is everybody, because I'm just friends with everybody. So.
Sure, most popular guy on tour.
No, so anyways, the helicopter landed, and like right next to the finish area, and they have EMTs that come out there. Insane. Like there's a show called Air Zermatt, the people that they rescue up there, the climbers and all this stuff. Yeah, they're amazing. And that's, and like those helicopter pilots have to get in some super gnarly, like they're rescuing people off of cliff sides and like in cornices and stuff. Or in crevasses and stuff. So anyways, they come in and load me up to like a stretcher and then bring me onto the helicopter. And the helicopter brings me down to what's that town? Is it Smoot? Is that right? No, Visp. Okay. Yeah, there's a little hospital down there.
Okay.
And I'm laying in there. They're doing tests on everything. Like I got X-rays in my lungs and stuff to see if there's any fluid in there or anything like that. And that's kind of where they decided that it was high altitude sickness, because these guys see this kind of stuff all the time, which is insane. I'm like, it can't be high altitude sickness. I'm a skier. I'm up here all the time. I know. Living in Park City too, like that's 6,000 feet, and Butte is it's high too. Like living in the Rockies, it's just the high area. Anyways, so can't be anxiety, can't be high altitude sickness. I'm in denial. This is crap. I'm dying. Send me home. And I get on a flight home, and I have another panic attack on the flight home, which was the worst, dude. It was like, oh God, that's like a 9-hour flight, right?
Yeah.
Probably something like that.
Was it direct? So did you go from Paris to Atlanta, or did you go direct to Salt Lake? Because there's Amsterdam to, I think you can take to Salt Lake, or what was the route?
I got lucky. I got on one from Zurich to New York City.
Okay.
It's a 9-hour flight, I would say, something like that. But an hour in, or maybe an hour and a half in, I just get hit with this same feeling, like my hands, all of it, I lose all the feeling and everything. And I'm just like, survive, like make it there, like doing everything I can. I'm laying on the floor. People are like giving me rose, and like this guy's messed up. He's got to get his stuff figured out. And at this point still, I don't know. It's not anxiety, right? Like anxiety is not in my head. So I'm still at that point where, but wow, that was terrible. That was brutal, being stuck on the plane.
Yeah, tin can.
They were gonna.
There's not places you can go.
God, they're gonna reroute to Iceland. Like the whole plane was like, the captain was like, you really messed up. Like should we emergency land? And I'm just like trying to breathe, trying to chill. I don't know. I get into a point on the ground where I'm just like not moving, and I'm like, this is okay. I just won't move from this position. And then it slowly came back, and I just like get a little bit anxious, and I roll over and like get into another position. And it slowly, like, that was my whole flight. And I'm just sitting there like, no, I'm thinking all these people. And I've been in the situation too, where like, isn't there a doctor on the flight? We need an emergency, or, like, is there a doctor? Please, please hit the call button. And this guy was sitting two rows behind me, and he was insanely awesome. He's an ER doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, have you ever dealt with anxiety before? Like, I'm like, no, there's no chance it's anxiety. What about high altitude sickness? I'm like, dude, I'm a skier. Like, it can't be that.
Yeah. So
he's like trying to diagnose me on the plane. Anyways, I'm like, let's get to New York. Don't go to Iceland. And in New York City, I go to so we had a strength trainer go. He was Josh Bullock, who he was planning on going home early anyway. So it lined up perfect that he was on the same flight home.
Okay.
And also Nick Page, who he broke his thumb. And right before, so he's getting sent home. And they're all on the flight with me too, which is, it was completely, yeah. I mean, like Nick's dragging my bags and his bags through the airports, and Josh is making sure like I have everything I need. And anyways, I get there and I go to the ER in New York, in Mount Sinai, and spend the night there. And they do every single test possible.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, dude, you're good. You're fine. I'm like, what?
Super healthy. Everything's great.
Yeah. It was like, okay, that's trash. I don't believe you for a second. Um, and anyways, like I'm jet lagged, so I decided to like take a nap. And one of the doctors comes and like shakes me, like grabs my ankle and shakes me, and it like wakes me up, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, when you wake up and you're jet
Yeah,
lagged, it's like you don't know where you are.
sure.
Um, he's like, tell me what happened. So I start going through the story, and I have like this major anxiety attack, panic attack again.
Yeah.
It just rolls up, and I'm like, doc, could it be anxiety? Like, is there any chance it could be anxiety? And he's like, yeah. I mean, 100%. I've dealt with anxiety. This is
Yeah.
that. And that's when I was just like, oh my God. All right. Well, I think that's what I have.
Huh.
So I get in an Uber and go to a donor's house so at this whole time in the background, this is where the OSK team is just awesome. They're asking if anybody in New York City can house, so and so because they have some sort of medical condition and they need a place to stay. And in 4 or 5 days, I have this the New York City Gala, which is this major fundraiser for the OSK team. I'm supposed to go, so I'm supposed to be in New York anyways.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm like, there's no chance I'm going to make this gala. But I go to this donor's house, and they were incredible, man. Like they set me up. They have also experienced anxiety and things like that, so I could talk to them about it.
Yeah.
But for the next 2 months, dude, it was just like diving in. I just like dove in. I was like, I'm not gonna ski. Like I'm done for the year. I don't really care. I'm gonna dive in and get this thing figured out. Like my head, I want to like understand it. And so I started like meditating and doing all these things. I went to the psychiatrist, and he was like, you need to, I walk in, I'm like, don't put me on drugs. I need you to tell me what's wrong with me. And he was like, you need to get on drugs. After the whole meeting, I was like, told him everything's like, you have panic disorder, you need drugs. And I'm like, all right, I have time. Like, luckily for me, and I honestly, I would have, had it been an Olympic year or something like that. But at this time, I had like, I mean, I'm talking to the head coach of the team. He's like, you need to figure this out, Mac. And he's like, you need time, take as much time as you want. Don't worry about anything. We'll be all right. So I'm like, okay. So I take a step back and do all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, I got time now. So I'm going to like really figure this out and understand it without taking any medication or anything like that. I had medication ready to go if I ever needed it, which was really nice to have for that first little bit. But what was really cool was this like opened up this entire world of anxiety, panic disorder, and mental health. And come all the way back to Jill's question. That was a really important part, was Jill Biden's question from the Zoom meeting. What is your plan for like afternoon activities for kids, or like what can they do? What kind of after school programs can you get into? How can we expand on this mental health thing? Because I look back at like, I mean, everybody and when I started talking about it and bringing it up, 95% of the people that I talk to about it are like, yeah, I've had something similar to that, and this is how I deal with it. Or I've dealt with that. Like, oh my God, I think I have this, and just being able to talk about it is just so big. So how can we create this, mental health organization for small towns that I grew up in, or anywhere that I've been a part of? So that's kind of where that question kind of came in. It was just kind of the timing of it.
Right.
They have her, like I said, her eyes lit up, and she had a lot to talk about, and it was really cool. It was a really, really cool experience.
That's awesome. No, so that journey, when you're in kind of that time frame and you're taking a step back, because I mean, essentially, since you were, I don't know, you lived at my house when you were 12 years old, I think it was. You lived at my house for a winter, right? I mean, I've known you since you were 10. So you've kind of been on this path of competitive skier to Olympics, World Cup winner, national champ, all this stuff. So coming around last fall, I mean, is it just a buildup of all this pressure of like, do I want to continue to compete? Do I want to, where's my passion at? Where's my love? Like, you've had a spectacular journey so far in your career. And I mean, where on your journey where did it kind of take you when you were able to step away from
Dude,
it?
yeah, I think that's exactly what it was, is the pressure, I mean, when you start on this journey of skiing or probably anything, but my experience with skiing is you do it because you love it and you have so much fun. I mean, like when I was 12 at your house, we had a blast. Like we were training every day and like learning new tricks and all these things. And I remember it being super sunny every single day too, which is kind of crazy.
It was gorgeous. Yeah. No, that always helps.
I think I only remember the nice days.
Those are the only days you remember, like the sunny ones and like, Deer Valley, Champion,
so true.
Snowbird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is great.
Those insane bluebird days at Deer Valley. Oh my God.
Or like training on St. Patty's Day. That was always a fun one.
Yeah.
Those like slush bumps.
Yeah. Right before nationals.
Right before nationals. Yeah. It's always good training days for sure.
But yeah, dude, I think that's what it was. It was like a buildup of all of that, like not really having fun anymore. I mean, you go to these competitions and at some point, at least for me, I started almost taking it for granted and, going through the motions, like just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And it was brutal because I was doing it, but I didn't, like, I hated training.
Yeah.
Like it was to a point where like I hated going to the gym. I hated, going to the water amps and all these things. And
right.
During that journey, it took 2 months for me to like figure out what was going on in my head and realize like when you get a panic or anxiety feeling, understanding that I think of it as like a superpower or not like a superpower, but more of like a reminder to stay in the moment,
Sure.
like when you start thinking about, oh, what am I going to eat tomorrow? Or where am I going to poop tomorrow? The things start to build up in anxiety, and it's just like a nice little reminder to stay in the moment. And that time I realized I was going to the gym for Josh, like our trainer. I was going to the water ramps for Matt. I was showing up to every training, everything that was scheduled for the other athletes, to be like a good role model, right? Like I was living for all of these other people. And, from then on until, I mean, hopefully for the rest of my life, that whenever I get that anxiety, just a little reminder to live for yourself. And then I wanted to ski again. Like I was sitting there and I'm like,
refreshed.
I was like, all right, from now on, I'm not going to go for so-and-so. I'm not going to show up for this person or that person. I'm going to show up for myself because I want to. And it took maybe a couple of weeks before I wanted to. And then I was like, all right, I really want to go. I'm going to go. And I went to, we had a training camp in Steamboat. And it was like, God, it was so fun. It was like, I was a kid again, skiing, just lapping. I mean, I was taking like free laps every once in a while to like to the top of the hill, just to ski because it was just, dude, it was so much fun. Yeah. And then from then on, that's how I decided to I was like, Matt, like, I'm ready to go. And I was skiing really well too. I was like better than I was prior to the panic, right?
Well, it probably also helped like not only the mental refreshment, but also the body wise, I mean, especially this sport, like when we started into it, it was you would ski during the winter and then you'd actually have a break, and then you'd maybe water ramp a little bit in June and go to Hood in June, and then you wouldn't do anything until you would go to selections, or then fall training camps started to become a thing, like as we got a little bit older, right? That was not really much of a thing when we were younger. So your body actually, and I think not only like body wise, but also like mentally, I think at a certain
I'd been
point,
training.
You need to have the mental release and the mental break from it.
100%.
Really, skiing doesn't really have that right now. I mean, because there's always an opportunity to be on snow. You can always chase snow if you want to. But I think especially if you're, it's one of those things, you're 9, you're 10 years old and your passion carries you so long. and then you only have so many moguls in you. You only have so many runs in you, and before something starts to break down, you start to burn out. I mean, this stuff kind of happens, right? So I mean, the fact
Totally.
that,
I mean, you have, once we're at our level, like we're training May.
Yeah.
That's when we start. You know, we start in the gym hard.
April. Season ends
right.
March 31st, April 1st.
March, yeah. So you get 1 month off, dude. Yeah, and that's what happened. I mean, I had an awesome year the year before, like did really well. And then at the end of the season, I was like, all right, I need to fix some stuff. I need to get right back into it. And I got right back into it. This was the last year, I guess. So got right back into it. And I think that training from like May to September was just, God, every day, you know, I never had that break. And, you know, COVID this year has actually been kind of like a different route. Like everybody has to be creative right now during these times. And
yeah, absolutely.
With us, we decided to take 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, like blocks for the rest of the season. Like, so we start these 2 week blocks, and you know, because of Avatar, but it's you're in a bubble. You're in the COVID bubble for the 2 weeks, no outside contact, and then after you're free to go do your thing. And then for 2 weeks, you got 2 weeks of off from skiing and off from training, and then you come back, you do your COVID testing, and then you get right back into the bubble. And with that, those little breaks in between, it's like you get time to kind of recenter, understand what you're going to do the next 2 weeks that you're on. And it's been so much more productive, man. Like already this summer has been one of the best summers of my life.
Well, it's so much of a difference rather than like you were talking about going through the motions, right? When you actually like, okay, I'm showing up and I'm training with a purpose. I'm coming in and you have that kind of renewed passion and the love for it, right? Rather than, I mean, clearly it weighs you down when you're thinking about other people and trying to make other people happy, and you start to lose sight of the 12-year-old kid that just like to bounce around and jump.
God, man, so true. Start doing it for yourself, and it's so much fun. It's so fun. We're so lucky to be doing this.
Back to that, like 12-year-old. I mean, you know, growing up for you, what was the drive? Who was the driving force for you? Was it mom and dad, or were you just chasing your brother around and trying to beat Brian?
I mean, my brother for sure. He had the drive. Like he was internally driven. So I mean, I didn't have the internal drive until I was a lot older, and he had it right away. Like we would go when we were kids to, I mean, random training places. Like we'd go up to the pass in Butte called the Home Stake and build a jump because he wanted to learn how to throw cork 7. Like this is when cork 7, like Johnny Mosley did his integral at Deer Valley, and Brian was like, I want to learn how to do that. So he looked up on YouTube, like, what is a cork 7? What is it? So he studied it. And then our neighbors had a trampoline, and he's doing all this on his own, dude. He's insane. And he's like 15. And he goes to our neighbor's trampoline and learns how to throw it on the trampoline. And then that fall, we decided to go up to this. I mean, it's so sketchy. There was this jump that we built off a rock, and you had to stop within like 50 feet before you ran into a barbed wire fence. This is the jump that we decided to use. I'm in the, like next to the landing, farming as much snow as I can, because he's up there trying to learn a cork 7. He annihilated himself, like jump after jump, just landing on his back, his side, his neck. I mean, he wasn't even close. Like, dude, and at this point, I don't know what a cork 7 is. I'm like, exactly. He's just boom, you know, sending it. After like a week, he was stomping every single one. Awesome. And it was a legit cork 7. And at that point, no one was throwing them at Northern.
Was that a Rick Shaner cork 7? Or are we? I mean, that legit? I don't know. Dude.
it was legit. He had a good one before he showed up to Wasatch. But yeah, he was like one of the first ones to throw it at Northern, and then yeah, as you know our story, we decided to take it more seriously and move to Utah.
That's a big move. That's
Yeah,
a big move
massive
to
move.
get up and move. That's a pretty big decision for you guys. And
Yeah, and
were you just a little brother kind of tailing along, or did
you
you
know,
have
100%.
any input? Or were you like, yeah, I kind of like it here. Do we need
At this point, no. I mean, I'm 12 years old, 13 years old, right? Like 12 years old is when I saw you that winter. So we had moved that year after that winter I spent with you as a family down there. And yeah, I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, I still went to school in Butte, which was sweet. I had amazing school in Butte. So they let me go. So I spent like 4 months back with my friends and all the way through high school.
Yeah.
2 months before the ski season and 2 months after. And I was just cruising, right? Like I was just going along with whatever Brian was doing. And yeah, man, he went on and won. He made the ski team that next year. We moved out.
Yep.
He made it when he was
so is he,
maybe it's 2 years after.
He's your biggest inspiration kind of going through? Is he the one that kind of helped mentor you kind of?
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. He's
100%. I mean, I was a fan of some skiers for sure. Like I was a big Nate Dogg fan. And I mean, there was a bunch of skiers that were on the team too that I loved. But
I mean, it was fun back. You know, Nate Dogg, Cabral, Bloom. I mean, all those guys are just.
So I went to a University of Montana game, a Grizz game, and I'm just with like some high school friends. I don't even think I was in high school at this point, but it was after the game, and we're down there playing football in the field because they allow everybody to play down there, like it's like an open field. And there's an interview of Jeremy Bloom on the big Megatron at the University of Montana right after the game, and I'm like, oh my god, like I know, like this is insane. And I'm like, this is what I do when you guys don't see me for the whole year. This is what I do. I know this guy. But yeah, I mean, Bloom is one of the best athletes I've ever met, you know, and one of the best people.
Yeah. No, they just came. He had his documentary just came out, The Weight of Gold. He was one of the producers for that, and which is on HBO. So it's super, and it's really interesting because they talk about a lot of the stuff that you were mentioning earlier, just the anxiety attacks and all that, the pressure and kind of, you know, the weight of gold, the weight of going out for excellence. And
wow.
So I mean, I haven't. I need to watch it because I know Jeremy.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it's on HBO. Michael Phelps and I've seen the trailer.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But that's what it's about. Just the pressure that, you know, once you get to, you know, closer to the mountaintop and you're really striving, you know, all eyes are on, and you kind of have to always be performing, and it becomes less and less about you, right? It becomes more and more just about the result rather than kind of enjoying yourself. It's like, all right, you're Brad Wilson, you got to win,
dude.
You got to win.
Yeah, it was funny. I was just thinking about this last night. The results thing is garbage. It sucks. It's so brutal, right? As you know, but you got to go. You still want to win. Like you don't want to, I guess, win necessarily as getting first or doing these things, but you want to win the day. Like you want to go out and you want to
do the best.
You want to have.
Do. You want to do. You want to be your best. And it's extremely difficult in our sport because our sport's a judged sport. It's not like it's alpine. You're just the fastest one down the hill. But I mean, you want to be able to achieve, because not everyone is as talented or is as, you know, I mean, you want to be able to achieve the best you can on that day. And whether it's a first or it's 10th, it doesn't really matter. But I mean,
as long as you're stoked.
Yeah. The U.S. mentality, though, you know, our mentality in the country alone is, you know, we got to get the W. It's always I mean, obviously it's always better to win. But
but you have all this outside pressure to get the W or the gold medal at the Olympics. Like you're going to the Olympics and you're like, I'm competing for the United States, right? And that's what you're thinking. And a lot of people get in that moment of like, well, I put in all this hard work and I'm going to be here for myself and be a part of the Olympic experience for myself.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I didn't do, like the last two Olympics, I didn't do well. And I was competing for, you know, mom and dad and all these people who did, you know, sacrificed. And you go into those being like, or go into these events being like, I need to be doing this for all of these other people who've made these sacrifices. But you don't realize like you've made your sacrifices. Like you need to be here for yourself.
Right.
And afterwards, celebrate with everyone else. Like that's the big thing is all of these people who make a sacrifice know that. Like they're okay with you being there for yourself. Do the competition, whatever it is for yourself, and then come celebrate with everybody. You know, that's where they come in and they're more than happy. All these people who made these sacrifices for you are more than happy to be like, yes, like I will be a part of the celebration or, you know, the mourn or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They're just happy to be a part of it.
Sure. Just happy to be kind of a part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of going to those experiences. I mean, how much different was that the second time around, the second Olympics compared to the first Olympics? I mean, just the difference in, did you feel like you were more prepared? Did you feel like the preparation was a little bit better, or just, I mean, because there's nothing else like it, right? It's like you get 4 years, you training, you know, from May to pretty much March, and then it's 30 seconds.
It's crazy you asked me this question because I was literally talking about this last night. The atmosphere overall, Russia was insane. It was so cool. The atmosphere there, like their culture is really loud, and we walked in for opening ceremonies, and it might have just been because of my first opening ceremonies compared to my second, but it was, I mean, there was like 80,000 people in that building, and it was packed.
Crazy.
It was so loud, and they are all like chanting, like our walking song was like this big, like heavy bass, you know, it's just it was insane. It was the coolest experience of my life. And then in Korea, we walk out and it's really quiet.
Okay.
Because I feel like it's just the culture there, and they're playing Gangnam Style. Like, come on. I felt really bad for the other athletes who hadn't gone to the Olympics. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. Like, God, the opening ceremony was the best experience ever. And they're just like, oh my God, that was insane. That was the coolest thing ever. Are you kidding me? You know? And
yeah.
But yeah, I had something to compare it to. And that was what I would say I'd take away from it was, you know, the atmosphere in Russia was so cool. There were so many people at the event, at our event. The stands were completely packed. And it was loud, you know, and we get to Korea and there was nobody in the stand. I mean, they had sold out, but there wasn't that many people in the stands. We had family and everybody who came over from the US, big fans like that, came and they were like in the lower section. And that was really cool. But the overall, I mean, it was
the stands and everything
freezing too, but
yeah, it was cold.
Yeah, it was really cold, which might have had an effect on that. But yeah, it was definitely different. But overall, like as far as my experience and all that, I was talking about this last night, is I felt less prepared the second time.
Less prepared.
Yeah, I because before I had no idea what to expect, and the second time I was like, I know what to expect. Let's treat it like another event, kind of mentality.
Yep.
And that was the worst. I think the worst thing I could have done. I should have been like, you know, excited about competing at the Olympics. You know, and another event is a World Cup, which is an amazing event too. You know, so like, why not just put it where it is and enjoy it instead of being like, oh my God, don't freak out, or you know, you got to have a good run. Don't screw up. Right. Just be like, let's let it all out on the table and send it.
Fall, kind of let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah.
You got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, totally. You got to do that every time.
Yeah.
And our sport now, like it's so competitive too that you have to let it all out to.
Well, it's interesting because there's that extremely thin line between glory and death, and you're right on the rails there. And then once you kind of hit that flow and you're in kind of that state where you're like, oh man, few and far between in my career compared to yours, but I do remember the moments, and they were best times. It's just
I mean,
it's hard to replicate, but when you're able to find that sweet spot, and you're like, okay, I'm glad my hips are in a good spot right now. If I get late once, I'm in serious trouble.
Screwed. Totally. I can tell you every time I've felt that, and that's why we do it. You get that feeling of flow and nothing, like you're invincible, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's so cool. It's so amazing. Once you get that feeling, you're addicted, and that's you're just striving to get into that feeling again.
Yeah, that flow state, and right on the rails, right on the edge of the rails there. Now, I mean, one of those things I was actually talking with my dad about a couple weeks ago that I just find super interesting. We were just sitting out on the deck, kind of just chatting about how the different kind of evolutions of the sport, and how long it has changed, and how much, and how quickly. It's not a big time frame, and I would say it's the same in kind of most sports. You look at how, like, Jesse Owens' world records don't even stand up in high school anymore, right? And compared to, like, I mean, when I was getting into it, you weren't allowed to flip. It was literally illegal. So you're doing like a spread and like a twister, and then when it got done, it's like, all right, you got guys doing like double full and 10 and like 15 trying to learn how to do a fucking backflip.
Nick Page at Mount Hood, we're on a mogul jump, and he's doing double cork 10s. Like, he's flipping twice.
Sick, yeah.
It's insane how much it's progressed. And I'm in the same boat. Like, you do it before you can even flip. Or when there's at one point where they allowed inverts, but you couldn't go straight over the top. So people would like do backflips, so put their head like this to not get disqualified.
Yeah, exactly. You could do it. It was an egg roll.
It was an egg roll. So ridiculous. But it's crazy, man, how much it's progressed in the last. I mean, I've been doing it. I've been on the team for almost 10 years. And
does that keep you like kind of engaged now, especially since you've had your chance to kind of step back and everything else? I mean, part of it has become so much more acrobatic, right? Which is extremely difficult. I mean, it's one of those things, they've changed some things around with it, and broken some things down, right? I mean, the turns are now a little bit, at least judging wise, are a little bit higher. They try to take a little bit away from the jump, but the progressions with the jumps are just continuing.
I kind of wish they didn't do that. I wish they left it like
50, 25, 25.
50. Yeah. So right now, those of you who don't know, our judging system is split 60% on turns judged, and what is it, 20% on speed, and then 20% on jumps.
Yeah.
For me, I was getting all my points with the speed.
Yeah.
Like the turns, everybody has their style, and it just depends on which judge is there on who is going to give you the points, like what their preference is on how you like, I'm not going to be able to change the way I ski for this judge or that judge. I'm going to keep skiing the same way I am, but my score is completely different. Like, they're supposed to judge you based on, your base score is what it's called. So you have like a universal score on basically how you turn. So you should have the same base score on every event, but you don't.
It is it's a super interesting system, and it's one of those things, right? If you would think that, so now turns are worth more, right? It's 60%. So
exactly. So it magnifies that flaw.
Yeah, true. The bottom section 2 turns and the top section 3, and then the middle section is a little bit longer. Well, if more of the event is now geared, like, because looking back 2002, some of those other, like, the bottom section at 2002 Olympics, I think, was longer than the middle section.
It was insane. Yeah.
It's like,
I watched those videos and I'm like, geez, like, there's no chance I can make it like through those turns.
Yeah.
But on the other side, the middle section is a lot shorter.
Middle section's shorter. But the
top
section was, I mean, the longest top section now, you got to go to Australia. top is
Oh
dream.
my
You got like
God.
22 turns or something to the top air. There's an
Thank
actual.
thank God for that change, dude. The top sections in mogul skiing is the worst part of the whole course. I'm glad those things are short.
Yeah.
It's like survival, make it to the first jump, and then your run kind of starts there.
But it was always one of those things that separated some of the skiers and some of the like Deer Valley, like the top section at Deer Valley when they used to have that big waterfall, the last like 2 turns. You could literally stop on the last turn and then just pump, and you could clear the chop on that top section at Deer Valley back in 2000. Yeah,
totally. Dude, the thing is though, like Deer Valley still separates the men from the boys. I mean, yeah, they might have made it a little different in the profile, yeah. I mean, the landings are way bigger, the jumps are way bigger, but because we're doing different tricks. But Deer Valley definitely separates the men from the boys every single year, and that's one thing I love about it is it does that, and a lot of stops that we go to don't. Yeah. And it's really frustrating because you're being competitive with this Joe Schmo who is trash, but he can ski this course really well because it's this flat. Yeah, exactly. Anybody can. So it's definitely what's sweet about Deer Valley is it separates that a lot. But a lot of these other courses, brings everybody together. But and I don't know. I think if they didn't switch that scoring system, maybe it wouldn't have exaggerated a lot of these flaws. And I honestly, I don't know. The progression you can't really control the way it's changing, but
no, I think the progression is good, and it's a natural thing that happens. But I think the one thing I do think that is a little interesting is the fact that if essentially 80% of your score is based on your skiing, then why are they trying to take all of the moguls out of the court? Like that's the one thing that's like,
yeah,
I get they're doing bigger tricks, so you need more. For safety, you got to have a little bit more of a lane, but courses used to be 275 meters. Like, you could make them longer.
Yeah. The thing is like, as an athlete, like I'm stoked that they're doing that. Like I'll have a conversation with, pro mogul guys and they're like, what the hell is this crap that you guys are doing? And I honestly would be scared shitless doing the tricks that we're doing on those courses, like,
oh yeah.
No chance. I mean, even the tricks that they were doing were insane.
Yeah.
On these courses with no landings. I mean, we show up to some places and I'm like, man, like this landing is short.
Yeah.
Like go down and like step it out, try to make it longer. But like back in the day, they were landing in the bumps no matter what. I mean, we land in the bumps still, but not on purpose.
Right. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. And it's really cool. I love the community because you can talk to these guys and have something in common with just skiing bumps and skiing freestyle, even though it's a completely different sport than it was back then. You have something in common, and it's really fun to banter about it.
Well, it's one of those things that's always fun just because if you can ski, especially if you can ski moguls, you can ski anything.
Yeah.
You can literally ski any part of the mountain. It's the most challenging part. That's why most people don't do it. Because it's difficult.
Yeah.
That's why I'd say the community is a little bit small, but it's one of those.
That's how I started. That's how Brian and I started. We followed people in Lost Trail, like the best skiers on the hill. And it's not a big mountain up in Montana and Idaho. It's only open on the weekends. It's called Lost Trail Powder Mountain, and it's only open on the weekend. So it's sick skiing all the time because it snows all week and then you ski it. But the best skiers on the hill were this freestyle team. Like they would go around the whole ski area and just rip all day. That was what the training was. Mm-hmm. And that's how we started. We're like, like, how do we get involved in this? And it kicked off because it is true. If you can ski bumps, you can ski anything.
Navigate your way down the hill. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, now, for
sure. For those out there, kind of, if they're starting to get into competitive skiing and kind of working their way up, what piece of advice would you have for them other than doing it probably for themselves and being in the moment? You got any kind of words of wisdom to help them navigate through their careers? Because it is one of those things where you really need to be able to have a certain amount of perseverance, because not every day is always great. Not every day you're doing your best. So what would you say?
I don't really know. I would definitely say take every opportunity that you can. If you have an opportunity to go skiing, or if you have an opportunity to go to the water ramps, or if you have an opportunity to do all these things, take it. And that's just something I did. And my best friends, from school and things like that I missed out on, they're still really good friends, right? Like they're still going to be there, and you're not going to miss out on anything because you're going to gain so much more through the experiences you can get if you succeed in your sport. Train hard, but do it as long as you do it for the right reasons, like do it for yourself. That's one thing I would say. It's a really tough question because that's asked a lot, like we have that question a lot and it changes every time, but that as of right now is what I would say.
Yeah. And how much, how much has that, would you say that's changed in like the last year? I mean, just from,
oh my God,
from the
everything's
last couple
changed.
months, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No, my life has changed. Everything's changed. My outlook on life, my compassion and empathy towards mental health too is skyrocketed. Having that connection and compassion for people who go through mental health is huge. And that made me question, what am I living for? What can I do? What differences can I do for myself, for the society, and things like that? How can I make the world better? Rather than just kind of going with the flow and doing what everyone else is doing. And that was my mentality for sure. Like, go with the flow. Like, oh, where am I going next? I don't know. I'm just going with the flow. I'm on a bus somewhere. I'm going to, Ruka, Finland, I guess. It's dark outside, so it must be in Finland. But now it's definitely do things with purpose.
So what do you think the future looks like? I mean, are you right now, or
I'm so stoked.
Have you planned out kind of goal wise what you want the future to be? Are you planning another Olympic run, or are you not looking that far ahead? You're trying to keep on more.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be sweet to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I'm more stoked now than I've been in years to for I'm ready for it to start snowing already. I remember when I felt that, and it was quite a while ago, like a few years ago.
Yeah.
It was just like snow was everywhere and it was just kind of there. But now I'm ready for competition season, and it's a pretty big year this year. We have world championships, which is sweet. But yeah, going through the Olympics, maybe longer depending on where I'm at, which is crazy to think. If you asked me that in August, I would have been like, I can barely make it to the Olympics,
Yeah.
But now, I'm stoked on it. I'll go as long as I can.
Yeah, it's amazing what a whole new outlook on life can give you, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things too when you think about moving forward and kind of the growth. I mean, I think you try to have new growth every day. You try to pull something. I've been trying to read a lot more audiobooks, a lot more to kind of pull out new things, and that's what I kind of hope for with this podcast so far, is that if people can get one or two things to be able to pull away, and hopefully makes a little change for them, and kind of makes them grow a little bit. I think you're either growing or you're shrinking. There's no kind of in between, right? Like every day we're moving forward, you're either moving forward or backwards, right? So it's one of those things where if you can kind of grow and get a little bit better each day, and whatever that is, if it's you're trying to be the best in the world, or you're simply trying to learn a little bit more about the world out there.
I mean, learning is huge. We have so much access we have access to everything now.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just going to go learn that one thing and stick with it. We have so much access now. You could learn a language for free,
Duolingo, bro.
Yeah,
Duolingo,
totally. It's crazy. And I mean, why not? If you're in those funks, why not pick up something that, you have access to? It's right there. But But yeah, I always thought about that with skiing, and it's like, okay, at what point is it time to change what that thing you're trying to perfect is? Because I've been trying to perfect this for the last, I don't even know, 20 something years, 20 years probably.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And there's so many things out there. Like there's so many things. You could golf. I mean, everybody golfs. You can golf, you know, it's crazy. Like you can golf it forever. And with that, and I think that's why it's so popular, is because you can always progress throughout the day. There's something, you know, you can get better at. And if golf's not your thing, or if music's your thing, art is big too. Why not try to become the best artist?
Well, I think it's one of those things that talk about a lot on here, is just the fear. And I think that it's such an interesting thing, the fear of failure, or the fear of going out and trying and kind of putting forth the effort, like taking the shot just to hear the gun go off. Like you might crash, you might fall flat on your face, it might be a total disaster, but at least like you go through and you take the chance. You know,
I mean, crashing, my mom always said crashing makes you better.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, in skiing, like you crash today, like it's only going to make you better. And you're going to crash less as you get better.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. You're going to crash harder.
Yeah.
You know, as you get better, but you're going to crash a lot less. And I don't know. The fear thing is wild, because it, like, I had like no idea. I mean, I knew a little bit of construction, but I never really had like a 9-to-5 job, right?
Sure,
and during those 2 months off, I got a construction job, and I knew a little bit about construction. But that first day was like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like I don't think this is right for me. Like what? And at this point, I'm high on anxiety. Like it's insane, right? Like I am out of my mind. And at that point, like I'm at the scary. I'm scared of everything, and I still went to my first day on the job, and it turned out that I fit right in. It was like, after the first day, I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like, oh, I know exactly what you guys are doing. This is awesome. Like the mind for it, and it all worked out great. And you won't know until it's happened. After you get through that first day, then you can decide on what you want to do.
It's one of those things about growth. You kind of have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit if you want to grow, if you want to, being able to challenge yourself. You have to do things that make you a little bit uncomfortable, right?
Right. I mean, we do that with skiing. Like when you're learning your first cork 7 or your first backflip or all those things, it's scary. I mean, today I did a right side 720 cork 7. I've never done that before. And and I had no idea what I was doing, right? I said it, and like, I mean, I didn't land it, but in that moment, I had no idea what I was doing. Like when I was in the air, all of it felt wild, and
this is foreign to me.
Completely foreign. Yeah, exactly. But if I continue to do it, eventually I'll be able to, like, it'll get comfortable. I'll get comfortable being in that position. I'll get comfortable and start taking it to my feet. And then maybe I'll take it to snow, and then I'll, compete it. Or, I mean, I'm not going to do that, but in like,
who knows?
No chance. I mean, right. But the thing is, with us, we don't get any benefit from doing that. So, I mean, I'll just keep going left side cork 7. But when you're learning a new trick, like you go through that, and I think for us, it's definitely an advantage because we've gone through all of those things. But most athletes have gone through that same exact thing within their sport. Sure. But then you look at everyone else, like in the business sector, or musicians and artists, like they do something new, and it's scary. Like, can you imagine performing in front of a crowd? I don't even know, even if it's stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy, I probably have some pretty good material, so I could
right.
5 minutes.
God, that scares me so much.
Well, it's
actually you got to do it.
Really funny example. So we were driving the kids up here, and they were talking about public speaking, and they were talking about how in the 6th grade they had to do a few years ago they had to do a public speaking thing, and they're in the 6th grade, and the teacher was like, that was a horrible presentation. Like, they're fucking 12. What do you
Sixth grade.
Yeah, like, what do you, I don't know. Who's supposed to be
Now
good when
these
they're
kids
12?
know
Like,
or think that they're the worst
like,
public
all right,
speakers
like,
ever.
yeah, it's not, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
It is skate. Like, that's, it's part of it. So you have to go through and you have to fall flat on your face. I'm sure I could do at least one joke, though. I could at
I think
least
you got
crack
it.
one
Yeah, you're
joke.
a funny guy.
The first one, and then after that, I'd be screwed. Then it would be really, really bad.
But that's part of it, man. Like, you go and do it. Yeah, you might suck the first time.
Yeah.
You might have one joke, but then the next time you're like, oh, like, I learned some shit. I can go make 2 jokes, and keep doing it. Eventually, you're gonna be a good act.
I would like to hope that, like, 22 of these podcasts in, I'm a little bit. I hate going back and listening to, especially some of those early ones. Murphy, bless his heart,
dude.
I don't know how he put up with, but it's one of those. But you go back and you listen because you're trying to get better. And
I love it.
I hate listening to your own voice. Going back, listening.
I think you're killing it. I love the podcast. I think they're super fun to listen to, and it's got the right message. And I mean, yeah, you as a critic weren't perfect, but you definitely surprised me. Like, I was shocked at how good you actually were.
Preach, bro. When
you first told me you were going to start doing these podcasts, I was like, oh, okay, you're out of your mind, right? Like, what the heck are you thinking? Podcast? Like, that's ridiculous. But yeah, you're doing it. Like, you go and you learn, you do it the first time and you learn. And now, I mean, thanks to me, that you're having the best jokes. No, I'm just kidding.
This is the best one we've had. We talk about nervous poop.
Exactly, right. Yeah. The shits that'll give you a panic attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, like, it's a true thing. It's with everything.
Yeah.
For people who are listening, aren't in any sport or scared to make that leap, like, who cares if you're the only person who cares about your failure?
No, it's true.
Everybody else still loves you. Everyone you're close to still loves you, and they're stoked about you. So who cares?
No, it's definitely true. I mean, one thing I did want to talk about was, because you kind of mentioning some of the art and stuff like that, and taking some of those chances, because that's something you kind of maybe 4 or 5 years ago you kind of started. You were always a little bit artistic, and I didn't say autistic, I said artistic. But you go through and you totally blew me away with some of your prints and stuff that you designed some skis for Hart, and just all that stuff was super, super cool. It's all, what is it? BradleyWilsonStudios.com. If people want to get some of their art, it's legit, dude.
So that started as like, I really wanted to start a business. Like, I think I just started on the team. So this is like 8 or 9 years ago. And I was like, I really wanted a business. I wanted to start something, just create a business, whatever it was. So I had been artistic a little bit. My brother's insane artistic. He does sculptures of fish that are, he's just insane with everything. He's so good at everything, and it's kind of annoying. But my family is just kind of like, we drew as kids, that was a fun thing we did. We colored a lot. But I decided to try taking up watercolor, and I loved it. It was super fun. And I remember watching this video on YouTube that like kind of inspired me to do it. And I did a painting called An Inspiration of this woman who, Agnes Seal, I think is her name. I can't really remember what her name is, but an incredible watercolor artist. And that got me into it. And I was like, oh, right. Like, let's try to turn this into a business. And that was kind of my diving into what it's like and how it is to start and create a company. And I like sold iPhone cases for a while. I put it on everything and sold it to people. And it was pretty successful. I did quite a few like commissions. Like, people like the art and they're like, will you paint this? Will you paint my horse? Or will you, will you paint my girl, playing sports and things like that. And then it just kind of, it was definitely like something that I knew I could do.
Yeah.
And as far as like the fear of like stepping into it and doing it, that really didn't exist because I'm just going to spend, you know, a couple $1,000 on everything and that's it. Like once it's started, it's good and it just kind of hangs out in that area. I only painted for like 2 years.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I haven't painted since like the last 7 years, probably.
Bro, you
5
gotta
years.
get back. You gotta start painting again. Can people still get can we still get those prints?
100%. That's the cool thing about it though, is like, I mean, I'm definitely doing art and stuff with home renovation or like furniture building and things like that. But it's all set up and ready to go. So when the time comes and when it's good for me to do it, I can start painting again.
Yeah, you need to. Dude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need,
for sure.
a print once the studio comes.
Well, send me a commission. I'll do it. You know,
I'll send you a commission. All right.
But there's a lot of things you can buy on there as far as prints go. I mean, I look back on it, I'm like, God, that's pretty good. Some of these paintings are pretty sweet. Amazing. Awesome. It was so long ago, and there's one that I love. It's the elephant. It's called Dark Giants.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a abstract elephant drawing or painting with like water drips and stuff. And I look back at that sometimes. I'm like, because I pull out my art sometimes every once in a while and like kind of try to get a little inspiration. And I'm like, damn, like that's pretty good for, you know, painting it on the kitchen table.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, I was looking at it earlier. I had one of your, I think it was the bear. I think I had one of those prints. I have no idea what's that, but I had the grizzly bear.
Intimidation.
Intimidation.
The names are funny too.
Yeah, the intimidation bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get another print going. I gotta send you something. We'll do collaboration.
I actually so it's pretty cool. World Championships 2 years ago, or wait, 2019 at Deer Valley.
Yeah.
They had this really cool setup. High West, with an incredible company, really cool, big supporters of the Yoski team. They created this like almost Team USA house for World Championships on Main Street in Park City. And it was cool. They had a wall and they were like, hey, any artists out there who in freestyle, the World Championships, want to send in some art pieces, and they're going to put it up on this wall. And all the people who walk into this from Main Street can like see our art, and they're like, oh, okay. And I sold a painting, or it wasn't the original. It was a print just from that. Like people walking and be like, oh my God, that's so good. That's so cool. That's awesome. And like they reached out to me at World Championships, like, did you paint that? Like, can I buy one? I'm like, yeah, it's all set up, ready to go. Like, go get it. And it's all ready to go. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's definitely really cool to get creative when you're burying your face in skiing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult to kind of juggle the time, and especially with all the home renovations and everything else. That kind of you've been a busy man during COVID.
During COVID, yeah, for sure. Gotta get really creative with it.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time, dude, coming on. Where can people follow you? What is it, Will's Freestyle on Instagram? What's the
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm not really active on it anymore because of the whole anxiety thing that I kind of took a big step away from social media and stuff, which is really cool. I don't know. Yeah, you can follow me on Will's Freestyle. I'm on Twitter a little bit, and Instagram, but I think B Wilson Art or Bradley Wilson Studios on Instagram, and I'll probably be more active on that.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time, my man. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll see you at the wedding coming up soon.
Oh, I know. God, no kidding. Are you stoked or what?
Oh, super stoked.
About time. I'm so happy for you guys. That's gonna be awesome.
Thanks, my man. All right.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. All right. Bye.